Sham Sharma Show Global. And I'm checking this out. He posted this like 8 months ago, but I'm checking this out because it's how Zoran Mamdani captured New York. And honestly, New York is compromised, like absolutely compromised. Like me and my wife were watching Inside Man a little while ago. And like during that time period, it was like not that long. It was like, what, 3 or 4 years after 9/11. And in the background of New York City, they had painted on the wall, "We will never forget. We will never forget." Fast forward 20 years, guess who forgot? Guess who forgot? And then they, and again, I always joke about the fact that Mamdani is going to finish what started on 9/11. He's there finishing what started on 9/11. And I say that as a joke, but you look at the state of New York where they'll have not protests, but like rallies like in behest of like the Houthis, Hezbollah, like these terrorist organizations. They'll have rallies praising them in New York cities. In the city of New York, the one that suffered the casualties on 9/11. It's like, how can you forget such a tragedy? How can you think, like, there are people that are like, well, it's kind of America's involved. But the thing is, sure, you can blame that America with its messing in the Middle East led to the retaliation of 9/11. But at the same time, why were innocents targeted? And not government facilities. Sure, a few government facilities were targeted, but nobody really lost their lives. The Pentagon was barely hit, and the White House wasn't even touched. But yeah, I mean, Mamdani is finishing what was started on 9/11.
Imagine a woman named Amrita, an Indian American living in New York City. She saw a mayoral candidate in her city, New York, named Zoran Mamdani. She saw him embrace his Indian identity in America. She saw him dance to Bollywood songs. She saw him eat Indian food with his hands. His entire campaign was based around embracing Indian aesthetics and culture to create an impression in the minds of New York liberals who've always had a curiosity towards Indian culture and pop culture. She saw him rap under his rap name, Mr. Cardamom. She tried her best to look past it. Once she was able to look past it, she felt proud. Somebody who was American, but also embraced his Indian roots, even if he was born in Uganda. He spoke about issues that New Yorkers felt strongly about: affordability, rent, the housing crisis, the cost of groceries, etc. She felt a sense of kinship to this man, and she stepped out and campaigned for him with great zeal. And then she saw him win the elections.
CNN projects that Democratic Socialist Zoran Mamdani, the Democratic candidate, will be elected the next mayor of New York, New York, defeating former New York governor turned independent Andrew Cuomo.
Democratic candidate Zoran Mamdani has been elected to be New York's next mayor.
Zoran Mamdani has been elected mayor of New York City, capping the Democrats' stunning ascent from little-known state lawmaker just a year ago to one of the most talked-about politicians in the country.
The future is in our hands. My friends, we have toppled a political dynasty.
But then she started noticing some other things. She noticed his attacks on her culture.
Sat Sri Akal ji, my name is Zoran Kwame Mamdani.
She noticed a readiness on his part to attack India's culture consistently, but a complete refusal to highlight the extremism of other cultures in New York. She realized that his campaign may not be as grassroots as you'd think. She noticed him unnecessarily bringing Indian politics into New York, but not say a word about the politics of Bangladesh and Pakistan, or his country of origin, Uganda, which is 100 times more toxic and extremist than India.
Again, like, everything about him is just to pander to liberal sensibilities. There is nothing about him, like, honestly, nothing about him that's authentic. That's authentic. He's just another politician. He's just another politician. And honestly, that's why I say it proudly. Even though not a lot of people like Donald Trump, I voted for him because I would rather have another businessman as president of the United States or in a place of political power than another politician. President Trump is not a leader. He's a businessman. But I saw a businessman as a step above a politician. I view politicians as one of the most absolutely corrupting fields in the world. Like, people will joke about lawyers being corrupt. People will joke about, like, police officers. No, nobody can do more damage than a political official. Nobody sells out their nation and their people more than a political official. Sent a happy poop. What the heck is a happy poop? But that's what I mean. He's all completely fake. Completely fake.
notice him outrightly lie about the country that he claims to love so much and know so well, and whose aesthetics he embraces.
My father, his family comes from Gujarat in India, and his family is Muslim, I'm Muslim. And Narendra Modi helped to orchestrate what was a mass slaughter of Muslims in Gujarat to the extent that we don't even believe there are Gujarati Muslims anymore.
And that's when it dawned on her. She had been scammed. Unfortunately, not helping that Indian stereotype. She realized that Mamdani is not what he seems. He's a chameleon who has no love for India.
She had been scammed, not helping the Indian stereotype. It's funny. It's funny, but the thing is like he's scamming all of New York. I mean, it's a step up. It's a step up for most scammers. I mean, most scammers probably have a picture of him, like how they have a like in most political places in office in India, they have like a picture of Gandhi. In every scammer office in India, they have a picture up of Mamdani. He's like the scammer that has reached the peak of being a scam artist. The one who has reached a peak of power, because being the mayor of New York City, I mean, that absolutely means something. That absolutely means something. It's of course, it can destroy some people's career when they don't toe the line, like what happened to Giuliani. Yeah, Mayor Giuliani. I think that's how you pronounce it. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy. He got where most scammers wish to be. And he's highly respected, which is insane, which is absolutely insane, because a lot of his policies that he totes and talks about, it's like they're socialist policies. And in my head, like nothing exists without the money to back it, which means those socialist policies cannot exist without a capital. And if you do not have a capital behind it, then you'll end up in like a communist dictatorship, which ends up putting half the group, half of the world population in camps in order to fund the way your socialist utopia. The thing is there has to be capital. And the thing is, America's a wealthy nation due to capitalism, so that socialist society only exists because of capitalism. So again, capitalism's the only outcome here. Scent flower. That's a nice flower. It's got a gold jewel in the center.
And only uses the aesthetics of India to sell himself as a zany, cultured, but adequately oppressed minority to impress rich New York liberals. And now that he's been elected mayor of New York City, one of the most iconic and famous cities of the world, let's look at the different colors of Zohran Mamdani. Mamdani primarily ran his campaign on the issue of affordability. Mamdani has promised a $30 minimum wage for all by 2030 in New York, along with free buses, rent freezes on apartments, and city-owned grocery stores that will, according to him, bring down grocery prices substantially. Even though this experiment has failed in other states, existing city-run grocery experiments like in Kansas and Florida show poor performance, store closures, empty shelves, and dependency on subsidized funding.
Every aisle is like...
The thing is there are areas where you can get, there are food banks. There are places where those who need it can get it at low cost, if not free. There are places already in America, in society. The problem is for most Americans, it's kind of like shameful to walk into a food bank. It's kind of shameful to walk into those locations and get like cheap clothing, cheap food. No. You want to walk into an Air One. You want to always act rich. So they want all groceries for free, so that way they don't have to. It's like this stuff doesn't work. This stuff doesn't work because a lot of it's on the honor system. And the sad thing is, when things are for free, you can't trust people. When people have to buy things, the sad thing is you can trust them because they know they have to purchase it. It's when you start to have a low trust society, which New York is a massive low trust society, and these high, credibly leftist cities are very low trust society, very low trust.
a ghost town. The chips are gone, the meat is gone, the cheese and yogurt are gone. Even the frozen section has more frost than food.
It used to be packed when it first opened back in a couple years back.
For months, food has been purchased and not replaced by the store.
But again, seemingly the people of New York are happy to wait and see what Zohran Mamdani can do for them in terms of affordability. So whether or not he can deliver on his promises of bringing affordability to New York, that's something that we'll have to wait a few years to see. However, there is another aspect of Mamdani that I think is very relevant now that he's been elected mayor of the city. And that is the two faces of Mamdani. Mamdani has seemed to inherit split his father's sympathy for Islamic extremists. His father, Mahmoud Mamdani, apparently humanized terrorists and suicide bombers. In his book, When Victims Become Killers, Mamdani compares India to Rwanda and Hindus to the Hutus. The Hutus being the tribe that carried out a genocide in Rwanda of the Tutsis. Mahmoud Mamdani was also a big fan of Muhammad Ali Jinnah, the founding father of Pakistan, whose genocidal call for direct action day resulted in the killings and assault of countless Hindu men, women, and children. In his book, Good Muslim, Bad Muslim, Mamdani hails Jinnah as a political intellectual who had a completely secular disposition. Zohran Mamdani seems to have also inherited these traits. He claimed that the biggest victim of 9/11 was his aunt because she used to feel scared while traveling on the New York subway when she wore a hijab after 9/11.
I want to speak to the memory of my aunt who stopped taking the subway after September 11th because she did not feel safe in her hijab.
Oh yeah, she was the biggest victim of 9/11, not the innocent people who were incinerated on the...
Yeah, like the thing is, like, you can easily say that there was an overcorrection of fear and misinformation after 9/11 because people were, it was a heavily, it was a heavily Christian nation at the time. And then all you're hearing about the Islam is like the worst of it, the extremism of it. And then why are you talking about that when there were countless number of Sikhs which were harassed? Guess what? A Muslim doesn't have to wear a turban, but a Sikh has to. Sikhs were targeted just because they wore a turban, and every single photo of Saddam Hussein had him wearing a turban. So, sorry, Osama bin Laden. They're all the same. They're all the same. Osama bin Laden had him wearing a turban. So every single one was subject to being hated just because by their scriptures, their belief, the Sikhs had to wear a turban. It was far worse to be a Sikh in the United States of America after 9/11 than a Muslim woman. Far more dangerous. Far more dangerous for the Sikhs after 9/11 than the Muslims. Because nobody was afraid of a woman's hijab. People were afraid of the Muslim turban. That's what it was. Because nobody saw Muslim women on the news. It was the Muslim men who were orchestrating the attacks on 9/11. That is what led to the fear. That is what led to Sikhs being targeted, not Muslims. Maybe one or two, but the majority were Sikhs that were harassed just because they were wearing a turban. And now he's bringing up his aunt. Why not talk about the other communities that suffered? And in some cases suffered more so because of a heinous, evil, vindictive person.
60th floor of the North Tower when the plane rammed into it. In fact, later it was revealed that apparently the story was false. His aunt did not in fact wear a hijab. She was not living in the United States at that moment. She was actually living in Tanzania. And also talking about the Muslims being the biggest victims, there were 3 confirmed deaths after religiously motivated attacks after 9/11 in America. The 3 victims' names were Balbir Singh Sodhi, Sikh, Waqar Hassan, Muslim, and Vasudev Patel, Hindu. Another suspected victim was a Coptic Christian named Adel Karas. So out of the 4 casualties as a result of hate crimes after 9/11, only 1 victim was Muslim. But of course, Muslims are the real victims. Apart from that, Mamdani has openly and proudly said that he's a supporter of the LGBTQ community and will set up an affair office for their rights and health.
It's so weird. How do these people who do not, again, if you're a very, these people who do not believe in any sort of, well, I've read the Quran, so let's just say that it's an absolute, they must be removed. Openly supporting the LGBTQ plus password community. Well, why? Well, it's just they want the vote. They want the vote. Again, nothing but a politician. Nothing but the politician.
And this is what has surprised me about all the big left-wing influencers that have supported him and mainstream media outlets that have fawned over him. They've never asked him questions regarding this support. Because as proudly as Mamdani says that he supports the LGBT community, he supports the Islamic extremist community with even greater fervor. Mamdani once shared an article questioning whether the murder of Lee Rigby was terrorism. Remember, Lee Rigby was part of the British Armed Forces and he was run over, stabbed and beheaded by Islamic extremists in London. His intern, Hadika Arzu Malik, has said that electing Mamdani is part of a holy jihad.
That none of this is in vain, that this is all jihad, that this is all ibadah, and that this is all counted for by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Am I willing to sacrifice for this bigger noble cause?
He regularly associates with people like Hassan Piker, who once went viral for saying America deserved 9/11, who wishes that his own country, America, had been defeated by the USSR.
We are in the heart of the imperial war.
This is the country that defeated the USSR, unfortunately.
Mamdani himself has openly supported the quote-unquote global intifada presented as solidarity with Palestine, but historically has tied to violent extremism.
We have elected officials who are taking paid-for trips to Israel.
I have developed a proposal for the Department of Community Safety.
So who is ready to end the exception? I want to hear you say, not on our dime! Not on our dime!
He also supports the idea of, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, a thought widely understood as calling for the elimination of the state of Israel. He's never clearly condemned Palestinian terrorist groups and repeatedly avoids naming Hamas when speaking on violence.
Do you believe that?
Like, the only thing he did was call out Hassan Piker for his states on 9/11. That was it. That was it. That's the only thing he did. He had, just.
Hamas should lay down their weapons and leave the leadership in Gaza.
I believe that any future here in New York City is one that we have to make sure that's affordable for all. And as it pertains to Israel and Palestine, that we have to ensure that there is peace. And that is the future that we have to fight for.
But you won't say that Hamas should lay down their arms and give up leadership in Gaza.
I don't really have opinions about the future of Hamas and Israel beyond the question of justice and safety.
In fact, in the cover of a rap song, he openly echoed support for Hamas and the militant ideology associated with it.
Under the pseudonym Mr. Cardamom, Mamdani himself drops a rap song in which he states, "My love to the Holy Land 5. Okay, my love to the people who funneled millions to Hamas, you better look them up."
I'm surprised why nobody has asked him how his support for these extremist groups is going to square with his support for the LGBTQ community, because these groups, his feelings towards the LGBTQ community is very well known. He says he's a massive supporter of the LGBTQ community, women and minorities, but he's also openly associated with CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations. It is the largest Muslim advocacy organization in America. Now, CARE's institutional history, leadership, statements, platform choices, and recent policy positions reveal significant anti-LGBTQ sentiment that conflicts with its self-proclaimed civil rights mission. Hassan Shibli, who served as executive director of CARE Florida, in a 2009 Facebook post, categorized homosexuality as a sin that is going to incur the wrath of God, along with alcohol, premarital sex, and worshipping a human. Despite these statements being brought to public attention, Shibli maintained in his position at CARE Florida, and the organization never publicly repudiated his views, even at the height of cancel culture. Even more troubling is CARE's long-standing relationship with Imam Siraj Vahaj, who previously served on CARE's advisory board and remains one of CARE's most frequent speakers to this day. Vahaj has repeatedly and publicly expressed virulently anti-gay views, calling homosexuality a disease on American society. In sermons, Vahaj has stated, "You know what the punishment is if a man is found with another man? The Prophet Muhammad said, the one who does it and the one to whom it is done. Kill them both." So according to Vahaj, the punishment for homosexuality is death. On top of that, Vahaj was pointed out by prosecutors.
Yeah, it's so insane because, again, everything is so violent. And I know a lot of people like compare it, like, because they're both Abrahamic religions. Well, I guess 3 Abrahamic religions. There's the Hebrew there. Well, I guess if you're Mormon, you fall in that category as well. Yeah, whatever. Like the Abrahamic religions, everyone talks about how heinous and hateful they are. But I prefer the category of sin rather than an outright call to violence. Like in the Quran, almost everything that falls under sin is an outright call for a jihad, outright call to kafir, outright call to just remove the infidels. Every single thing in the Quran, every sin, that's what it is. At least in the Bible, every sin is just labeled as a sin, something that is displeasing towards God, something that can lead you towards hell. I prefer that over the fact that it's like, you know what? God said, because they're sinners, hunt them down and gain a better placement in heaven. At least in the Bible, you don't have to buy your way in. Unless you're Catholic, you don't have to buy your way in. But it's so insane because I've been through the Quran, I've been through the Bible, I've been through the Book of Mormon. It's just like there's so many things that are just, I don't understand how people who claim to be, and again, I've known like more modern Muslims who believe that the word is a product of its, like the Holy Quran is a product of its time. So they've view the Holy Quran in like a modern sensibility. So the hunt for killing gays and things like that is just seen as like, you know what? That's very barbaric. That's the only way they thought they could correct them. The way like more modernistic Muslims, which are seemingly rare because the extremists have a really loud voice, but the way they see it is like, you have to talk to them. You have to teach them, kind of like how the Bible always said. It's just like they're sinners. God still loves them. Try to bring them back into the fold and make them turn away from degeneracy, that kind of thing. But they view it more in that mindset. But the problem is, so many people view the Holy Quran as like the word, and everything written in it is, well, has to be held directly as it was written instead of viewing it through a modern lens, which is how you end up with these massive extremists. And then they end up just focusing on certain aspects of the Holy Quran and not the Holy Quran as a whole.
As a, quote, unindicted co-conspirator in the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, which left 6 people dead, and has publicly defended the plotters of the attack against FBI and CIA, who he dubs the real terrorists. Now, why is all this relevant? Why are we talking about this gentleman? Because here's a picture of Mamdani at a mosque in New York, gleefully smiling with the same Siraj Wahaj, asking for his endorsement and calling him one of America's foremost Muslim leaders. Why has no media outlet asked him how he squares supporting people like this, supporting organizations like this, and then talking about how much he cares about women, the LGBTQ community, and minorities? Because by the looks of it, Mamdani cares about the LGBTQ community the way Arjun Kapoor cares about his producer's money, or Rahul Gandhi cares about his party candidates' election deposits. One cleric promoted by CARE, Abdul Nasir Jangra, has justified the possession of female sex slaves and advocated marital rape as a divinely given right. The mainstream media rarely challenges CARE representatives who appear on TV claiming to support lofty ideals that conflict squarely with the extremism that they preach within the Muslim American community. In Michigan, CARE actively opposed amendments to the Elliott-Larsen Civil Rights Act, or ELCRA, that would add sexual orientation and gender identity as protected classes, which means CARE did not want the LGBTQ community to get constitutional protections against exploitation and discrimination. In 2023, a letter called Navigating Differences, signed by nearly 300 Muslim religious leaders, including highly influential figures like Yasir Qadhi, who are promoted heavily by CARE. The letter, which some LGBTQ Muslims and progressive groups saw as a direct response to their growing visibility, asserted that opposing LGBTQ practices is explicitly stated in Islamic revelation, and it is a necessary element of Islam. The letter stated that this was unanimously agreed upon by qualified scholars and deemed an immutable part of Islam. Intellectuals promoted by CARE, with whom
the issue with those so-called less extreme Muslims is that they refuse to speak out or stand against these extremists compared to Christians or Hindus who aren't afraid to criticize their religion. Yeah, that is true. That is true, because they've gotten to a point where they're so outnumbered that they can't speak against it. But the thing is like, you can look at places like Saudi Arabia or the EDU, what is Dubai's acronym or whatever, like those nations that are more modernistic, they have gone out and condemned like the extremists growing inside of like the UK, what was it? It was years ago where one of them was talking about how you will be seeing more terror attacks coming out of like the EU than you will out of any other Muslim nation, because the main base will be in the EU, will be in places like Canada, will be in those weak nations that allow these liberal mindsets, UAE, thank you, UAE, United Arab entities, yeah, United Arab something. But the thing is like, that's what's going to end up happening. It's going to end up, they take over, and they're trying to do it in the left. You see the left in the U.S. constantly trying to blow up with these very extremist mindsets. And it's insane to see in the fact that they get such momentum. It's just like, these people are insane. You can't talk to these people. These people don't understand rationality. They don't understand logic, because for them, it's all about them wanting to be in charge. It's all about them wanting to be in charge. Because they didn't win the election, they want to do anything they can to get in charge. They'll riot. They'll like, I'm not going to say protest. They riot. They call for the death of like other politicians. They'll send death threats. I mean, that's become the MO of the Liberal Party. Same thing happens in India, because so many people are unhappy that Modi has done so many positives and is been leading for so long and actually changing things. They're upset that they're not in power. So what are they going to do? They're going to riot. They're going to constantly get upset or find any kind of avenue, like they did with the CJP, and try to whine and complain in order to point at something that proves that they're wrong. No government will ever be perfect. Humans will always be problematic. But I view it as like, what happened when Biden won? Well, there was January 6th. Sure. What happened when Trump won? Well, you had burning of Teslas. You had riots in L.A., riots in New York. You had the attacks on officers. You had all this stuff. Sure, you can call out January 6th, but look at all the incidents that happened because Trump won. When Biden won, it was like, okay, there was that one protest that went a little far. Like almost basically it turned into a riot on January 6th. But look at all the riots that have happened just because Trump won. Which is worse? I think the revolving door of riots is worse than January 6th.
Zohran Mamdani has so openly associated have said that hating and discriminating against the LGBTQ community is an immutable characteristic of Islam. Critics of CARE have said that the organization seeks to uphold the right of men to control women and by extension the right of religious institutions to discriminate against LGBTQ individuals. Nobody has grilled Mamdani about this. If he cared so deeply for the LGBTQ community, minorities and women, why hasn't he come out and denounced CARE in no uncertain terms for their opinions? Why hasn't he distanced himself and why hasn't he said that he will not take the support of CARE, either support from their members or their money? Why is the Jewish and Hindu community held to insane standards while every horrible belief of the Muslim
Welcome back,
community gets
Ajay.
a free pass? Mamdani wants people to think that CARE will take care, as in look after the LGBTQ community. But CARE wants to take care of the LGBTQ community the way people in The Sopranos or The Godfather took care of stuff. The second thing I want to talk about, Zohran Mamdani, is the South Asian scam that he is running. Now, what is this South Asian scam? I've talked about this in previous videos, but
Yeah, I remember the speech from the prince about Europe becoming the home for these terrorists. Yeah, I mean, it's the truth. It's the truth. And the sad thing is, like, the UAE and, like, Saudi Arabia are the more modern Muslims, the ones, and they have spoken out. The ones that are there have spoken out because they feel safe enough to. I mean, who's gonna touch the prince? Who's gonna touch the prince? So it's like they're safe enough to talk out. But it's the ones, well, in the EU. It's the ones in America. It's the ones in Canada. It's the ones in Palestine. It's the ones in Pakistan that can't speak out, even though they know what happening is wrong, because they know, guess what? With the mindset of the extremism, they have to conquer the people first, and they can't have a free thinker. Free thinkers are bad to have in a cult, in an extremist organization. You have to eradicate them first. That's exactly what happened in Nazi Germany. Nazis had to basically eradicate, like, the Germans that were helping the Nazis were seen as bad, or even worse, or the Germans helping the Jews were seen as bad, in some cases worse than the Jews themselves, because they were absolute traitors.
basically, this is a scam run by left-leaning Indians, Pakistanis, and Bangladeshis who have a deep hatred for India, but can also recognize that out of these three countries, only India has any sort of a positive reputation in the West. So what they do is, whenever...
Some people hate Modi because he accomplished what their favorite government could never do, and that's a fact. Yeah, again, like, I've said it, I've been on record saying it, like, India had its independence for like 70 years, did nothing with it. Like, it didn't progress, didn't regress, it just stayed stagnant. And then Modi starts turning it into a capitalist nation. And then within 12 years, it's almost become a superpower. It went from a third world country, Modi gets elected, and then it fast forwards itself into a superpower. That's why they're unhappy. They're not unhappy that things are changing. They're unhappy that they aren't the ones changing it. What is the saying? They don't want to they don't hate like dictatorships or things like that. They want to be the dictators. They want to be the ones in charge. They don't mind someone being in charge. They want to be in charge.
India produces something positive, they will co-opt it by calling it South Asian. For example, Indian food becomes South Asian food. Bollywood becomes South Asian movies. Indian songs become South Asian songs. Yoga becomes South Asian. Meditation becomes South Asian. Any positive achievements by Indian Americans becomes a South Asian achievement.
Yeah, I hate that term, South Asian. It's so weird. It's so weird because to me, India's either India or part of the Middle East. That's it. That's it. I don't care. I don't care if that's geographically wrong, but demographically, it looks about right. Because I hate to be the racist guy, but Asians have a certain aesthetic. Maybe Nagaland, we can fall in the Asian category. But the majority of India, to like Western sensibilities, or at least Western looks, is Middle East. Just like Russia, even though the majority of it is in Asia, Russia is considered all Europe. All Europe, even though the majority of it is in Asia. That's how I feel about like India. It's like it's either India or the Middle East. India or the Middle East.
An Indian American kid wins a math Olympiad, suddenly he's a South Asian kid, hence taking any credit away from India. But anything negative coming from India is definitely placed on India's shoulders, not South Asia's shoulders. For example, caste is an Indian problem, not a South Asian problem, even though it exists just as violently in Pakistan and in Muslim communities in the Indian subcontinent. This is what Mamdani does expertly as well. Mamdani uses his Indianness in the same way. It is used as a glossy coat to make him look good and super ethnic in the eyes of the rich New York liberal who will vote for him. They see him as the zany, quirky theater kid embracing his Indianness. He produces Bollywood-themed ads, uses Bollywood dialogues and aesthetics in his campaign. At the same time, he throws India and Indian Americans under the bus at every given opportunity. Here he is, gleefully posing and smiling under a picture of Bhindranwale, a Sikh terrorist who was responsible for the deaths of thousands of Hindus and Sikhs during the Khalistani insurgency in India in the 80s and 90s. Bhindranwale openly threatened to massacre innocent Hindus. His followers pulled innocent Hindus out of buses and executed them point blank in Punjab. He lamented when the Hindus of India were able to rebuild the Ram Temple, one of the holiest sites in Hinduism, after a 500-year wait. The Ram Temple was destroyed by the Islamic invader Babur because he knew how sacred the site was to the Hindus. It was destroyed to spite the Hindus and exert Islam's power over the Hindus. Once again, throwing India and her indigenous culture under the bus while appropriating Indian aesthetics. He has been known for his anti-India and specifically anti-Hindu statements. Mamdani was seen in a rally where people were chanting, "All Hindus are bastards."
Sat Sri Akal ji, my name is Zohran Kwame Mamdani.
He presents himself as somebody who loves India, somebody who loves using Indian aesthetics, somebody who's a bit of an expert on India. And then he says in a town hall that there are no Muslims.
The funny thing is, I'm more Indian than Zohran Mamdani. I'm saying it. I'm saying it. I'm more Indian than he is. The thing is, he's just a scammer. He's just, again, like I said in the beginning, he's a scammer from India that has just made the ultimate scam. He's made the ultimate scam, and the thing is, people have agreed and believe him. When it's left to like the rest of the world, and India's already outnumbering him, well, why can't people see the light and speak out about him? But no. Since he's from India, he's a positive influence. But the thing is, you have to be honest about that influence. You have to be honest about that influence. Be proud about where you're from. Be proud about where you're from.
Muslims left in Gujarat because Modi killed them all.
No, and I just want to say something here, which is that my father, his family comes from Gujarat in India, and his family is Muslim, I'm Muslim. And Narendra Modi helped to orchestrate what was a mass slaughter of Muslims in Gujarat to the extent that we don't even believe there are Gujarati Muslims anymore. And when I tell someone that I am, it's a shock to them that is even the case. And this is someone who we should view in the same manner that we do Benjamin Netanyahu. This is a war criminal.
Are you ready to hear something shocking? The population of Muslims in Gujarat is 6 million. The population of Muslims in USA is 3.5 million. There are more Muslims in just the state of Gujarat than the entire United States.
The fact that he was talking about people are shocked, it's just like, I don't know. I don't know about that, because again, India it's a Hindu nation. No matter how pissed off people get when that from like the Muslim communities there, it's a Hindu nation that has accepted a demographic of Christian, a demographic of Hebrews, a demographic of Muslims. However, one of them tends to be a virus that keeps multiplying rather extremely, and then just forcing a lot of people into it. It's very strange. And the fact that he's openly saying stuff like that. So most of the violent acts in Indian history, especially recent Indian history, well, just like, what was it? The train massacre, or was it the bus or the train, where the Hindus were pulled off the trains and basically massacred, just because they were Hindu. How was that? Sure, was there a retaliation from some people that felt enraged due to the acts of some of the Muslim communities in India, and they targeted Muslims? Sure, absolutely. That goes without saying. Why are you blaming the prime minister for that? I mean, sure, he probably, since he's Hindu and believes India should be primarily Hindu, you want to blame him for all the hatred? I mean, that makes no sense. Yeah, train. Yeah, that's what it was. That was what it was. Because, yeah, that was crazy. Absolutely crazy. The fact that, and for some reason, Modi is to blame when Muslims were attacking Hindus en masse during that time, and only a small majority of a small segment of Muslims were hunted in retaliation. Not as much as Hindus that were killed during that period of time, and it's seen as Modi's done a mass genocide, and that, like, insane, absolutely insane. But he's fabricating evidence for people in the West who don't know any better to, well, fall in line, to hate the nation of Israel, nation of India. He mentioned Israel.
Is the South Asian scam. He calls Modi a war criminal, compares him to Netanyahu. He attacks Modi in various rallies.
And my critique has been of Mr. Modi and the BJP political party for their vision of an India that only has room for certain kinds of Indians.
All kinds of Indians, just one law. Just one law, which the Muslims do not appreciate. That's the thing. They hate the fact that one law means that they no longer have the same say. The same say they once had. Because their personal law is no longer superseding the one law of the nation.
And it's part of a belief that pluralism is something to be celebrated, something to be strived for.
All while supporting Prime Minister Modi and an Indian government approach to violence for our community members.
He's purposely targeting Indian Americans and Hindu Americans by dragging Indian politics into a New York mayoral race. There are also...
It's basically like Somalia. Bringing in their Somali politics from a whole other nation to get them at war with one another.
Tons of Pakistani Americans and Bangladeshi Americans. Why isn't he vilifying Pakistani Muslim Americans the same way? Why isn't he talking about the heinous crimes of the Pakistani establishment, one of the biggest supporters and sponsors of global terrorism? Why isn't he vilifying Bangladeshi Americans this way by talking about their regime, who have been systematically ethnically cleansing the Hindu minority population? According to a Bangladeshi professor, no Hindus will be left in Bangladesh after 30 years if the current rate of ethnic cleansing continues. He emphasized that the decline is driven largely by migration due to sustained persecution and discrimination by the government of Bangladesh. If he wants to talk about India, why is he only talking about Hindutva and not Muslim politics? Why isn't he talking about organizations like the All India Muslim Personal Law Board that want to follow Sharia law but not the Indian constitution, who believe in the man's right to use triple talaq and divorce his wife, a practice so archaic that it has been banned even in Pakistan and Bangladesh.
Yeah, like crap, what was the movie? What was the movie? Hawk? Was it Hawk? Like, the fact that was a case that she had to strive for, the fact that all he had to say was, like, I was so enraged, like, because under Muslim law, he was allowed to do it, and the state of India had to approve of it because it was under Muslim law. Again, I don't think the Muslim law should supersede government law. I don't believe Christian law should supersede government law. I don't believe Hindu law should supersede government law. You go to a Muslim nation for more of a Muslim kind of traditional law. You go to a Christian nation for more of a Christian kind of law. You go to a Hindu nation, which is exclusively only India, for more of a Hindu-based law. But sadly, India has allowed for more. And then there's no, it wasn't there under. There's I find it insane that so many people want to change a nation to adapt to their own personal beliefs, when why don't you go to a nation that you feel you will be able to integrate into and become a part of, even if it's not entirely your cup of tea. At least you could become a part of it.
Why doesn't he talk about the All India Muslim Personal Law that believes that women should only have 50% inheritance rights that a man has? Because this is the reality of Zohran Mamdani, the chameleon. He's using his Indianness as a condom, something to be used for its intended purpose and then thrown away. He uses his Indianness and Indian aesthetics to look zany and ethnic and adequately oppressed in the eyes of liberal New Yorkers, who will then go vote for him to get rid of their white guilt. Once he's achieved his purpose, once he's gotten the votes of the New York liberals, he discards this Indianness. Then he vilifies the same India and her indigenous culture to further his political career. These are the actions of a scam artist. The people of New York should know about this chameleon behavior, this two-faced behavior. The people of New York should know about how he throws...
The sad thing is I think the Sham Sharma is going at it the wrong way. He's just a politician. Everything he's saying about Mamdani, you can literally say about any politician. The things they use, the policies they claim to run on, and then as soon as they get in office, they completely change what they're talking about. However, they are like, they're spin specialists. They always say a ton of stuff without ever actually saying anything. So you can never pinpoint them in like an outright lie because they're always saying a bunch of utter nonsense, which can mean like 20 different things. And they could be like, well, you're just interpreting it the wrong way. And they'll never completely specify what they meant because the second they do, they get boxed into a corner. That's what makes politicians so great at being politicians. They are nothing but scam artists. They are. They all are. All politicians are exactly the same. Exactly the same, which is why I hate politicians. I absolutely despise them. The Muslims of India support Pakistan during conflicts, and that makes my blood boil. Yeah. It's insane. Like, there have been people who go around like, America talking to like Muslim communities. Hey, if the U.S. was to go to war with Pakistan, if the U.S. was to go to war with Saudi Arabia, if the U.S. was to go to war, who would you ally with? Oh, we would definitely ally with Afghanistan. Well, we would definitely ally with Pakistan. It's like, what? What? That makes no sense.
A country under the bus, whose aesthetic he's so excited to co-opt. The people of New York should know that while in public he pretends to care so deeply about women and LGBTQ issues, but he openly associates himself with CARE, one of the most extremely anti-woman and anti-LGBTQ groups in America. He openly associates himself with religious preachers that call homosexuality the greatest disease in America. Is that not two-faced behavior? Is that not a scam? Maybe he'll move away from this rhetoric once he's mayor because ultimately New York's problems are very different and do not require this kind of virtue signaling to solve them. But if he starts to fail in delivering on his lofty promises, he might fall back on his virtue signaling and India bashing to try and put some credit in the bank in the eyes of his voters. That's the game you play when you play the South Asian scam. And these are questions that his supporters and that mainstream media need to ask him. But I'll leave the rest to you.
I really like Sham Sharma. I really like Sham Sharma. It is insane how he is a quintessential politician, but because what's funny is with most politicians, I don't care because they're American. I don't care much about their policies or anything like that because in the end, they're coming at it for the ideal of for America. Not always, but most of the time. But it's the fact that he brings so much foreign politics into the city of New York. Why? Absolutely, like, that makes no gosh dang sense. It makes no gosh dang sense. It's so crazy. It's so crazy. And he's just a quintessential politician. A quintessential politician, which is no good for anyone. No good for anyone. Did he saw the reel related to paper leak that Modi ji made, which crossed 15 plus million in 12 hours, breaking the old record of 300 million of iShow speed x BTS. The reel? I don't know. I didn't hear anything about that. Definitely India is losing the digital narrative war from all fronts, inside and outside. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, I don't understand how... I don't know how you course correct. The thing is like, there should be more people that speak out about it and have a wider reach. The problem is the people who speak out about it, like look at Sham Sharma, look at myself, even like the emissary who's like more non-biased. The people who do speak out, like Pepsiti or Sandman, we're nobodies. We're absolute nobodies. That's the problem. Is the people who are at the top are able to say whatever they want in their big communities, which the thing is like, okay, so Pepsitis, Sandmans, Sham Sharmas, my own communities, primarily in India. And the problem is, India doesn't need to hear this. The rest of the world needs to hear this. Like, we need someone like Asmongold or like, Hassan Piker will never say anything truthful, but like, we just need big streamers, XQC, somebody that has like a level head, more of a understanding of the world to actually speak on it, who has a wider audience in the world. Because the thing is, we have the Tyler Roverias creating nonsense. We have the constant people going to India and just creating utter nonsense. And then the people talking positive about it, their main audience is in India. They're not able to reach the wider world because they don't have a viewership in the wider world. That's the problem. Is like there has to be more people in the wider world that can reach out and show the truth to the rest of the world. But so many people don't pay attention to it. So many people do not. Because the narrative is already so bad that it doesn't make sense. I mean, what was it? Asmongold reacted to like the poop competition in India. I don't know what his thoughts were on it, but at the same time, I mean, that's like the worst thing you can react to about India. Like every now and then he'll check out one thing, but he doesn't check out much. He doesn't check out much in the end. Like there have to be more people that call out all the BS that's going on, because that's how you're going to end up winning the narrative, especially outside. You need to get the people that are big enough to at least notice the contradictions, at least notice it and point it out and speak upon it every now and then. It's the fact that it's just us nobodies that only have a fan base in India are talking about it. That doesn't mean that isn't going to help. Or if anything, we'll just have the retards in India complaining about how we don't understand anything about Indian politics. I get those every now and then.
You guys got a video? What's so bad?
And don't forget to like and subscribe.
Wait on that.